It has begun again. Welcome back, everybody. I actually made a. I had a first take of this, and I went 13 or 14 minutes before I realized that that I didn't have my mic plugged in. In fact, my mic wasn't even in front of my face like it is now. It was way over there underneath the camera. I just came home from work, took my stuff off, immediately brought up the article, started doing the video. I actually probably did it again. All right, so I have a playlist for particular topics. I have a beer bug playlist. Can't say the words because YouTube censors a lot of content that has the actual name of the virus and any sort of insinuation relating it to a particular country. So I have a beer bug playlist. I have a election proceedings playlist. And I there's already videos removed from the playlist, some of which I actually added yesterday. So they move at hyper speed. The last time something like this happened, we saw Google employs 10,000 people to focus on controversial content. And what ended up happening is you had a slew of collateral damage, both legitimate and illegitimate. And what I mean by illegitimate collateral damage is like literal content that seemingly, like to the naked eye first glance, would be related to controversial, but isn't. And then illegitimately, I think I might have said legitimately, all right, but illegitimately is content that is related to a controversial subject but isn't spoken of in a controversial context. That is to say historical video documentation, which that's why I harp on that in particular. I saw channels and content removed because it was like video documentation of Hitler and of the SS party, like a Nazi rally, or of his time at the not the Reichstag, but I think it's Wolfsbane, the bunker that he had up in like the Swiss Alps. And you saw like World War II in color, and not World War II. Not like World War II in color was on YouTube, but there are clips of World War II in color, and there were like documentaries that used the archival footage from World War II and from Hitler, from the days of Hitler, from people personally following Hitler and were part of his his inner circle. And it's an unfortunate thing to see everything pretty much be stuffed down the memory hole. Now, I myself have spoken about the legal proceedings that are going on in relation to the election, neither for or against the proceedings themselves. I voted for Tulsi Gabbard, so I already lose. I lose big time, okay? The fact remains, however, this is happening in reality, in our faces, and for us to be unable to openly discuss because important issues generally generate controversy, right? So to be able to speak about the important issues is also to be able to speak about controversial issues. And if we can't openly speak about the things that matter, what are we supposed to do? What's the point? I don't know about you, but I literally have zero things to say about like Kim Kardashian's butt. It's big. I don't care about sports, bro. I'm a video game nerd, but even that is becoming politicized, right? Look at Cyberpunk 2077 or The Last of Us 2, which actually I heard was pretty good, despite the uproar about how they came to the conclusion they did for the story. You know what? You want to hear about that? You better go to my comic book channel. The point is that it is a fearful time when it should be the most expressive, right? The more stuff that's happening, the more we should have to say about it. And the more we should be having the synergistic conversation, right? Not even really synergistic or congruent. We don't have to agree. The point is not to agree. In fact, if we have a healthy disagreement, we can come to that's how you get new ideas, right? I have A, you have B, and they're not vibing together, but I bet if we mix parts, we'll get a C, right? But let me read before I'm telling you the first take of this was like 13 minutes of me just railing. So now that I'm a little more calm. YouTube will remove videos disputing Joe Biden's election victory. On Wednesday, and I was just thinking about some of the things I spoke about in the first take, and like some of it was like beer bug related, and I'm reluctant to say anything about anything. But here we go. On Wednesday, YouTube announced that it will begin removing any content alleging widespread voter fraud influenced the outcome of the 2020 U.S. presidential election. And here's the thing. Voter fraud and voter irregularity are two different things. Any sort of irregularity that occurs will have maybe not a heavy influence, but I think the inability for votes to be tallied correctly has an impact. I think the lack of coordination between state and federal governments when an election issue crops up, whether it be counting votes, sending out votes, poll watchers, anything, their inability to communicate and effectively rectify the issue is a problem. Is a problem that affects it all affects the election, big and small. It's just how, what variety of effect that it has. But there's no nuance in these discussions anymore because we're barely having these discussions. And because we're barely having these discussions, we don't know how to introduce nuance into them. In the immediate aftermath of the November 3rd election, YouTube came under fire for allowing channels to publish videos making false claims about election results. How can you make false claims about something that's ongoing? You're making presumptive claims, right? You're making guesses. But it's like Georgia, was it today or yesterday? Just recertified their results. They certified their results. There was a legal proceeding, a legal challenge as to whether or not they were going to be able to recertify the results because the legal challenge brought the certification of the results into question. So they recertified them. This just happened in the last 48 hours, and I'm not supposed to talk about it because I say this because if states are recertifying, not suggesting that they are, not suggesting any more than Georgia is, because the Supreme Court just struck down Pennsylvania, the ability for the Trump administration to block Pennsylvania's certification, so that stays. And that pretty much clinches it for Biden. But if any state is still ongoing in their certification, recertification, determination of validation of votes process, I mean, we're basically simply talking about the election results, like we're the ongoing election tallying. It's ongoing, but because it may insinuate, it may slightly suggest that Biden's victory or Biden's him being ahead may possibly change, even if the chance of it changing is like 5%. That's still a chance of it changing, but it requires you to say that it's only there's so much prefacing and there's so much disclaimer that has to go into saying every last sentence. And the thing is like, I have a lot more faith in the agency of the individual to know when something is nonsense, or at least to I don't know, because the uninformed voter definitely is mainstay, and manufactured consent is everywhere. People find details irritating. But the fact, I think, still remains that if you continue to constrain and reduce the ability of the person, of the individual, to speak their mind, as long as their intent isn't to cause harm to anyone else or to disrupt, destruct, or undermine anyone else, what you will then have is, beyond a lack of interest, you will have a concerted, repressive society, like a repressed society. You will create essentially a seditious movement within this country of people who would speak about something in a sort of questionable manner, not necessarily contrarian, but just questioning, right? That questioner will then be turned into an ardent opponent when you try to silence them asking questions. That's how you create revolutions. So in the immediate aftermath of the November 3rd election, YouTube came in fire building with Paul's blank. In one instance, One America News Network, a verified YouTube channel, published a video declaring that Trump won the election. Now, about this channel, disclaimer, I'm speaking about a video that I saw on a channel that you've already censored, and I'm not speaking for or against it. I'm merely pointing out what the obvious, that people, I believe people are intelligent enough to at least look at something when someone just makes a random, verbose claim and just being like, well, do you have any evidence? So the video I saw was of a gentleman whose name I can't remember, whose claim is supposed to have merit based off of his credibility, on the One America News Network, who spoke about infiltrating an Antifa Zoom call, which is actually sort of commonplace in the run-up to the election. Or these conservatives claiming that they have infiltrated Zoom calls. I've only known of one channel, one person who did it and posted the call and was pretty like super 100% open about it, and that's Millennial Millie. Check out her channel. Yeah, it's like a half-hour video of just this Zoom call, and they're pretty radical in it. But I digress. Let me not go down that road before I say something that gets me whatever such. So in the video, the dude's like, yeah, I infiltrated this Antifa call. And this guy, Eric Comer, came on. Now, Eric Comer apparently works for Dominion. You can Google him. He actually came out with an article like, my name is Eric Comer. I work for Dominion. I didn't tamper with the election results, blah, 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 blah. So he says that this guy, Comer, comes on. And then the call continues. And someone asks him, like, what are we going to do if Trump wins? And apparently he alleged, this is the allegation, he says, oh, well, don't worry. I effing took care of that. And, the video goes on a little longer. And then it ends. And he doesn't provide any evidence. He doesn't provide any proof. He just makes the claim, airs it out with words. And that's it. And it's like, well, guy, that's pretty sensational for you to just come out and say. Can you at least give me a screen cap of the Zoom call? Nothing. I look at that and I'm like, all right, until you come out Veritas style with like undercover video or something other than just you, I'm gonna have to put that in the closet. You see how easy that was? Like, I don't know. Maybe because I hold people to the standard that I hold myself, which is part of my problem. I like to think that I just have more faith in people. And if not that I have faith that the better process is letting people be fooled rather than increase the censorious Orwellian nature of what's happening to what amounts to our public forum. At the time, YouTube defended its decision to let the video stand, saying in a statement, like other companies, we're allowing these videos because discussion of the election results and the process of counting votes is allowed on YouTube. The company went on to say that content from authoritative news organizations were the most popular videos about the election. In its Wednesday blog, however, YouTube said that its decision to begin removing misleading election videos follows the U.S.'s safe harbor deadline and that enough states have certified their election results to determine a president-elect. Starting Wednesday, YouTube will begin removing any new content that misleads viewers about the outcome of the 2020 election, which is still ongoing. I mean, and it's ongoing as far as some states are still dealing with legal suits that are preventing like an ultimate certification. I hate to use the term ultimate certification, but we just saw in Georgia. They certified, then had a lawsuit to deal with, and then had to recertify. Okay, so YouTube's announcement follows a series of lawsuits placed by the Donald Trump campaign challenging the results of the election. Notice how they stopped saying President Trump. On Tuesday, the Supreme Court rejected a request to block certification of Pennsylvania's election results. We'll get to that in a second, making it nearly impossible for Republicans to invalidate Joe Biden's victory in court. At least they said Republicans because it is definitely an effort of the Trump administration, but also on the state level, you have Republicans from all over in the legislature. You have Republican lawyers all over the place bringing up their lawsuits of their own accord. Okay. Let me see. Oh, yeah. In the post, YouTube said its election information panels have surfaced over 200,000 elector-related videos and were shown over 4.5 billion times. The company said that it would update these panels Wednesday, linking to electoral college results provided by the Office of Federal Register, calling Biden the official president-elect. Here's the thing. Him being the official president-elect still doesn't dispute the fact that these disputes happened. You're literally trying to put history down the memory hole, right? These are people. See, here's the thing. So One American News Network putting out a video saying that Trump won, even though you have the entire world news network saying otherwise. Like that would be from a shareholder. If I were a potential shareholder and this was like CNN or something and they did that, I would be upset because it's clear nonsense. Right? It's clear nonsense, and I feel like it would detract viewers from continuing to trust in our network for legitimate news. Now, I know what some of you are saying. People are dumb. I took too long, so obviously I don't have a response to that. However, do you believe that the ignorance and stupidity of an uninformed voter or uninformed person should warrant the full-on censorship of alternative opinions? As an intelligent person, do you think that you should suffer? And here's the thing, intelligent people see that and they're like, well, it's bullshit. I feel like an intelligent person would want to know both sides, both nonsense and otherwise. I mean, you can't determine what isn't true unless you know what is true, and vice versa. Unless you like echo chambers. I don't. I hate the sound of my own voice. That's why it took me so long to make a YouTube channel, bro. But here we go. Here we go. Sensitive material. Texas sues over election results in battleground states. Biden won. Right? So I wonder if I should lead with the Supreme Court striking down Trump's allies' challenge in Pennsylvania to appease them before I go into Texas. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do my thing. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has filed a last-ditch lawsuit, which is actually kind of came out of left field. But like the problem that we've seen with a lot of the lawsuits that the Trump administration in particular, with Trump's team led by Giuliani, he's actually sweating black stuff. That was so weird. Is that they're basically misfiling. Like Pennsylvania Third Circuit, was it Pennsylvania? Third Circuit of Appeals. I don't think it was Pennsylvania, it was Michigan. But anyway, Third Circuit of Appeals, they tried to file a lawsuit to appeal the results in the Third Circuit Court. Third Circuit Court was like, no, you didn't even fill out, for long story short, you didn't even fill out the paperwork properly in order for the process to proceed the way that it's supposed to, so that I can hear the claim. No, the answer is no. So then Giuliani's team is like, I mean, can we amend this so can we have a leave so that we can amend this and get it right? No, you shouldn't have rushed. You should have got it right the first time. That's on you. I mean, if you just let things speak for themselves, not always. That's not how life works. But I mean, a good portion of the time, it plays itself out as it should. The Supreme Court heard it and they were just like, you know what? This doesn't make sense. We're going to put this back to the lower courts because there are ways that states deal with election results disputations, right? At a federal level, that's just not something that the federal government does, seeing as how each state and each county does their voting systems differently anyway. So if the Supreme Court can, they will kick that down to the lower courts and let them dispute it and let them resolve it where basically I feel like it should be resolved. However, has filed a last-ditch effort in the Supreme Court against 4 key states won by President. And that's the thing. The Supreme Court, as far as I know of it, was designed and created to allow states to handle disputes with each other over like land and water, things like that. So like in this case, if it's not a challenge to Texas election certifications, then yes, it makes sense to bring the case to the Supreme Court. And here's why. They are alleging Texas is alleging that these states unlawfully enacted changes to their voting laws that led to election irregularities and skewed the results of the presidential election. I mean, that's definitely arguable, although the first thought from any defense attorney for these states would be that they didn't really have a choice given the current situation with the virus that shall not be named. Paxton, who is facing accusations of bribery and abuse of office, is asking the Supreme Court to extend the December 14 deadline for the state's certification of presidential electors to allow for investigations into the alleged irregularities. He also wants the court to block the use of unlawful election results without review and ratification by the state's legislatures. Well, last I checked, I thought it was like 48, 49 states already ratified. I mean, and it's they're stacking the deck. What they did is, instead of having several specific and thorough lawsuits, they just tried to grab a handful and toss them out there. And it's like, this is what I'm talking about. It's like, it's kind of thin. It's a little thin. Paxton filed his suit against Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Michigan, all of which have certified their election results and formalized Mr. Biden's victory over President Trump. Mr. Biden was projected the winner of the presidential election November 7th and has begun the transition process, but the president refuses to concede. but I mean, he's refusal to concede and then not working with the transition team are two different things. He is now allowing the transition team to work with him, but no, he still hasn't conceded, but he's still doing what he needs to as far as a incumbent on the way out. Finally, Supreme Court has set a deadline of 3 p.m. Thursday for the 4 states to file a response before weighing in on the case. Mr. Trump lauded Texas' efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election, calling Paxton's case very strong. The president has also filed a motion with the Supreme Court to intervene in the case, arguing Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Georgia together have enough electoral votes to affect the result of the vote in the Electoral College, and that they clearly has a stake in the outcome of this litigation. Yeah, no, this is dumb. This is the big one. Our country needs a okay, yeah. Similar lawsuits around the Trump campaign led widespread fraud and blah, 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 blah. 17 states have also filed a brief in support of the Texas lawsuit. Missouri, Alabama, you can read these guys, okay? Oh, fine. Missouri, Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Utah, and West Virginia, most of which seem to be red states. In his challenge, Florida, I know isn't though. In his challenge to election results in the 4 battleground states, Paxton claims government officials used. Actually, is Florida? I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's a Democrat. Where was I? Oh, yeah, sorry. Paxton claims government officials used the coronavirus pandemic to alter their election rules because they had to, weakening ballot integrity. That's what I mean about it being weak. Your justification is that they had to change because of the virus. As a judge, it'd be like, yes. Go on. I'm waiting to hear something negligent or erroneous. No, please continue. It's just like, yes. He also alleges they flooded their states with ballots to be returned by mail or in drop boxes while loosening signature verification and witness requirements. As a result of these efforts, Paxton claims the election results are illegitimate. Again, I can understand the need to dispute and it being argued in court, but to make the outright claim that it illegitimized it wholesale is to suggest that the effect that it has, that it was so widespread that it would have the effect. That's the problem, is that to allege wholesale illegitimacy or election fraud and these results can't be certified, you're making the insinuation that whatever has occurred was widespread enough and large enough, right? It can't just be everywhere. It has to be everywhere and on a large volume in order for it to be effective. The attorneys general of Michigan and Wisconsin chided the lawsuit as an unserious effort that is without merit. Yes, I'm sure. The Constitution grants the Supreme Court original jurisdiction in cases in which a state shall be party, which allows such dispute to be brought directly to the High Court. In fact, when states cannot settle the dispute, the Supreme Court is the only court with the authority to adjudicate the case. Yes. The Supreme Court seldom executes its original jurisdiction, according to the Federal Judicial Center, issuing opinions in just 123 original cases between 1789 and 1959. Jeez. They don't have a lot of state-on-state disputes. And when they do, when they do have them, they don't adjudicate on them. And they've adjudicated on very few in the last almost 200 years. It's like 160 years. Good Lord. So, with that said, this is another one they won't hear. Supreme Court dismisses Trump's allies' challenge to Pennsylvania election. Because I never want to make these videos too long, and I wanted to talk about the stimulus, right, that she claims is unacceptable, but has accepted, but that Mitch McConnell is now bucking. There's just madness everywhere. Supreme Court refused Tuesday to stop Pennsylvania from finalizing President-elect Joe Biden's victory in the state, despite allegations from allies of President Donald Trump. This is what I mean. These some call him President Donald Trump, some won't. That expansion of mail-in voting was illegal. Just flat out like that. That's not. See, that's what I mean. Thin, razor thin. You have to be more specific. You can't just say the expansion of mail-in voting was illegal because, again, as a judge, I would look at you and say, so you really wanted people to come out in the middle of a pandemic to go and vote for you? No. I mean, yes, that's what you wanted. And in an ideal world, that's what would happen. But that's not what's happening right now. The action by the nation's highest court, which includes 3 justices named by Trump. And I love it how people want to throw that in the face of like conservatives and Republicans. When ACB, Comey Barrett, I got it this time, When she was being elected, everyone was worried, oh my God, she's going to overturn the election results of blah, 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 blah. She's going to overturn Roe v. Wade. And she came out and said, listen, Roe v. Wade can't even be overturned unless it goes to the lower courts first. And lower courts already have laws in place that prevent a challenge to Roe v. Wade. So if it comes to the Supreme Court, we'll hear it, but it ain't coming. And nobody wanted to hear that. Nobody wants to. And this is why it comes back full circle to YouTube censorship. Nobody wants to be reasonable, discerning, intelligent, capable, thinking, driven people. They just kind of want it to be force-fed to them. Just lay down and take it. Just take it. No lube, just take it. Pathetic. Cayman State. See, I try to not get Cayman states across the country are looking in the results that will lead to next week's electoral college vote. It represented the latest in a string of stinging judicial opinions that have left the president defeated both politically and legally. By their one-sentence denial. Yes, I forgot that. It just was denied. It didn't even. They didn't sign it individually. It was just denied. Oh, you gotta bust up at that. It's funny. That's what I mean, though. It's so razor thin. It's I don't even have to explain this to you. No. In their one-sentence denial, the justices left intact a ruling by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, which said the challenge to a state law passed in 2019 came far too late. Just to recap, basically, a GOP-led Pennsylvania legislature passed new mail-in voting laws that then Republicans tried to dispute. They tried to dispute the law that I don't want to say they, because obviously it's bicameral, but that a GOP-led legislature introduced. Got a lot of gleeking, a lot of cottonmouth going on. So it was laughable. It was very embarrassing. All this is terribly embarrassing. New Associate Justice Amy Coney, it's not Comey, it's Coney, like Coney Island, appeared to have participated in the case. No dissents or recusals were noted. Led by Mike Kelly, the challengers claimed that the Republican-led state legislature's expansion of absentee voting violated the Pennsylvania Constitution. Rather than going to court after its passage, however, they waited until the state figured prominently. Yeah, it's we know what you're doing. And here's the thing. Does the timing of it illegitimize the claim? I mean, and that's a tough thing, because if it's happening, do you really want to be the guy that's well, I'm sorry, Republicans, you guys just have poor timing. I know, it just looks bad. It's the optics of it. It looks opportunistic, irrelevant of if the claim has merit or not. It's politics, baby. Trump's own lawyers still have more lawsuits pending in key states, including Pennsylvania, where a federal appeals court last month rejected his unsupported claim that the election was fraudulent and ballots were processed improperly. To date, however, judges have rejected nearly all their arguments. And we're already at 28 minutes, so I'm gonna stop, but I can keep going. It's very critical, especially as a guy who's just begun his adventure into this. Who's also outspoken, opinionated, open-minded, and willing to hear criticisms and be told he's wrong and investigate it. And I love the depiction of me finding something out and being wrong. I'm oh, I was wrong about that. It's something that's fascinating. That's the adventure. Don't be scared to be wrong, because you if you're fearful of being wrong or being being dumb about something, chances are you're a lot more incorrect and foolish than you know, right? The more fearful you are of being foolish, the more foolish I believe you probably are. Don't be afraid to fail. That said, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'm gonna keep doing what I do. Be well to each other, truly.